Hello everyone, welcome to this new tier list video, and today we are rating the bases in Star Wars Unlimited. So bases are an extremely important part of the game because they determine your starting HP total, and they also are effectively an ability. They also can sometimes provide an ability that you are guaranteed to have every single game. Therefore, choosing your base is way more important than choosing any of the card in your deck, because you are guaranteed to have that at hand in every single game. So we're gonna be rating those, and I'm gonna remind people what how I rate these. So basically, S tier is meta defining cards. The A tiers are staples. B tiers are solid. C tier is more of something that is situational, depending on, and then D tier is effectively unplayable. And that's kind of how I rate these things. So we're going to start first with the security complex, which has the ability to give a shield token to a non-leader unit. And this base is a pretty strong base, because basically for free, basically bases with less HP but a free action have proven to be quite powerful, because against anything that is not an aggro deck, the extra ability, which is essentially kind of think about as an extra free cards in your hand, is way worth the 5 HP that you're paying for it. And so against anything that is control or mid-range, it's usually worth it to have the 5 less HP for the extra ability. Against aggro, it's a bit more complex. It really depends on the base. Most of the time you're going to prefer to have 5 extra HP, but some bases ability really can help you out surviving, and can make up for the 5 HP loss. So generally speaking, 25 HP base are stronger than 30 HP base, I would say, as a general rule. But obviously, depending on the meta and depending on your deck and how much your deck can benefit from the epic action, that will obviously change. So security complex is a 25 HP base that hasn't been played a lot, because the giving a shield to a unit is not something that you're desperate for whenever you're playing a blue deck that already has plenty of ways to give shield. The fact that it cannot be used on the leader is a very, very big limitation, and is a very, very big limitation. And players, there's a strong argument, especially if you're going to be playing a control deck, that you want to have the extra 5 HP. Something I want to say about Security Complex is that it's a card that I find to be way more powerful in an aggro deck than it is in a control deck. And it's a bit of a mismatch between the ability and the color, because blue is obviously not a good color for aggro. There's very, very few aggro cards in blue. So obviously, and since the ability is extremely powerful in aggro, because it allows you to basically protect one of your early game units and make it so you can deal more damage. So Security Complex is one of the, in my opinion, it's the strongest aggro base in the game. Unfortunately, it's not in an aggro color. So if you ever wonder why some people play Sabine blue, that's because Security Complex is such a strong aggro base. But that's pretty much, unfortunately, the only reason, because there's really nothing else in blue to make up for that. So this, I would say this difference here between what the base is trying to do and what the color is trying to do is kind of what is holding this card back. So I'm going to be rating it in the C tier category. I think it is playable, but it is not an amazing base, generally speaking. Next, we're going to go into the 30 HP blue base, which is also a base that people will often play in control deck, because for them the extra 5 HP just matters more than the security complex ability, and it is true to many control decks. So whenever you're going to see a blue control deck that plays a blue base, it's generally speaking going to be playing Capital City, or of course the the other card, which is Dagobah Swamp, which are the exact same card. They just have a different planet name. They have a different name and a different planet name. So far in the game, there is nothing that interacts with planet name, so there's no difference between the two 30 HP base in blue. For me, it's a base that I'm also going to rate in C tier, a bit below the security complex. I think there's more cases where you want security complex than cases where you want the capital city, but they're both very playable. If you need the blue as a complementary color, obviously you're going to be playing those. Moving on, we're going to skip over the Dagobah Swamp because they're, as I said, they're the same card, and go over the Energy Conversion Lab, which is the green base with an ability. This base, and I think you probably know this if you've been paying attention to Star Wars Unlimited competitive scene just a little bit, it is by far the best base in the game. And the reason being is because giving a unit ambush, even if that unit has to go 6 or less, is simply incredibly powerful. There's one of the major complaints that I have about many units in the game, and you probably realize this if you followed my tier list videos about every single card in the game, is that many cards don't have an immediate impact on the board. And Energy Conversion Lab allows you to essentially fix that. And in some cards, like for example Boba Fett, Disintegrator, or Zeb, or cards like Steadfast Battalion, some cards even become incredibly powerful because they can appear out of nowhere and become incredibly powerful. Energy Conversion Lab is simply not only the strongest effect, it's an effect that I think is only going to get stronger as we're going to see more cards. I think it's going to be a very big limitation for FFG in terms of what they can print and what they can't print, because they all have to take into account the fact that this card exists. And it's once again an ability that is free and available at all time. One of the most infamous combo in the game is Energy Conversion Lab into Super Laser Technician. One of the weakness of Super Laser Technician is that it's a card that you play and you have to wait an entire turn for it to actually kick in and give you an extra resources. With Energy Conversion Lab, you can ambush it right away, having it kill something and then comes back as a resource. And one of the things as well with the Super Laser Technician is like it's a powerful card, but it's a card that can be countered. It can be it can be treacherous, it can be bounced, but if you are ambushing it using Energy Coverage Lab, there's really not much your opponent can do about it. So it's just an incredible card, and it is by far the most played base. And basically Energy Coverage Lab is one of the big reasons why green is the most played color in the game. What is also very powerful with ECL is that it's good in every color. For every type of deck. It's good for aggro. We see in Sabine Green doing very well. It's good in control, obviously, and it's good in mid-range deck as well. So it's an incredible card, and it's obviously going to go into S tier. It is one step or even two steps above anything else in the game, in my opinion. It's also a card that I think is, if you thinking in terms of the game, it's definitely a card that a lot of people would consider, that would put in the ban conversation. Like, honestly, it's a card that has shown up a little bit too much, and maybe it skews the balance of the game towards green a little bit too much, and it also makes green leader very hard to play, because if you're playing a green leader and you're playing ECL, then you have to play double green being one of the weakest double aspect color in the game. And that double green, and so people usually prefer play non-green leader and then complete it with green with Energy Conversion Lab to have access to all those sweet green cards. So it's also a card that affects the meta negatively in that sense. Next we got Command Center. So if ECL is an auto-include, who is gonna play Command Center? Who is ever going to play the 30 HP base? Well, there are a few decks out there which do not really benefit so much from ECL. ECL is a very powerful card, but you really need to, you don't need to build around it, but there are certain cards that you need to have in your deck to benefit from it. And I know a few decks that basically do not benefit from ECL. One of the best examples, in my opinion, is Han Solo Green. Han Solo Green, pretty much everything in the Han Solo deck that costs less than 6 resources almost as already has ambush. And the few cards that don't have ambush are usually very cheap cards like Battlefield Marine, Mon Mothma, Leia, that kind of thing. And also ECR does not benefit the Falcon because you can't stack ambush and the Falcon's ability like you can with the Fire Spray, for example. So really, there's Iron Green does not benefit at all from ECL, and therefore it would rather have the extra 5 HP. So there's a few cases where some people might be want to play 30 HP base, but of course, needless to say, the 30 HP base in green sees very little play, whether it's Echo Base or Command Center, and we're obviously going to put this at the bottom of C tier. It's not unplayable, but it is very rare to see that because, as I said, ECL is so powerful and prevalent. Next, we got Thorrk in Town. So Thorrk in Town is effectively kind of a free removal spell, but it has some limitation, cannot affect leader, and can only affect damaged unit. There are certain cards in which Thorrk in Town is certain decks in which Thorrk in Town is amazing. Mostly, if you have a way to deal cheap damage to the opponent. So we see Vader double red. We've seen, for example, Boba red using ESB agent. That can really do very well with this card, or it's simply just a strong aggro card. Your opponent try to ambush your unit and try to kill some of your units, and then you can finish it off with Thorrk in Town. So Thorrk in Town, in my opinion, is the second best base in the game. The ability is very powerful. It's a hard counter to certain decks. Notably, you think about decks that plays Fifth Brother and Death Trooper. Thorrk in Town will really counter them very hard. But to me, it is definitely a lot worse than Echo Base Defender by quite a bit of merge. So I'm going to place this in B tier. It's a very solid base, and it's a very solid base. Moving on, we got Catacombs of Caldera, also known as Kerba City, the other one. And as you can expect, because Thorrk in Town is very good, then the 30 HP base red is going to see less play as a consequence. But it still does see play sometimes. There's some decks that really do not have an easy time taking advantage of the Thorrk in Town's ability, and would rather have a base that has a bit more HP. So it's not unplayable. I see this a bit more often than the Command Center because once again the differential of power between Thorrk in Town and the 30 HP base is smaller than between the Command Center and the Echo Base Defender. In the Energy Conversion Lab, sorry. And yeah, so it's going to be C tier as well. I think all the 30 HP base are about the same power level, but some see a little bit more play than other because of how they compare to their 25 HP counterparts. Next, we got Jeddah City. So Jeddah City, in my opinion, is the worst of the 25 HP base. The ability is the most situational. Once again, does not affect leader. -4, -0 can protect. Very strong if you want to disable an enemy sentinels and then attack that sentinel with multiple units. But that's relatively situational. A basic use is just give -4 to a unit. Since that unit attacks you, that's -4 damage, so that's almost that's 4 HP that you've saved on your base. That's almost the same as the 30 HP base, but obviously Jeddah City is a bit more flexible. You're gonna see Jeddah City being played typically more often than the 30 HP base, but to be honest, it's almost a 50-50. A lot of people like to play the 30 HP base because the differential of power between the two is very small. This is definitely one of the case scenario where the 30 HP base is very close in power level to the 25 HP base. So I'm going to place this, and C tier, I'm going to place this just below Security Complex. And then finally, we got the Administrator Tower. And Administrator Tower, also the Shopper's Base. Basically, as I said earlier, it sees a little bit more play than the other 30 HP base because it does compare a little bit more favorably to its 25 HP counterpart. And there you have it. That's basically my tier list. So I think that those 6 bases are very similar in power level. You get Thorrk in Town, which is just one cut above the rest and then you got energy conversion lab, which is basically almost the systematic choice. And just to show you how dominant I didn't prepare this, but just to give you an idea on how dominant energy conversion lab here, I'm just gonna give you an example there. What's it called? Take the initiative. So I'm just gonna show you. Okay, this is the old one. I'm just gonna give you so you see. So we see there's 16 participants here for this tournament, and you're gonna see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 10 out of the 16 participants. You got 10 energy conversion lab, 1 target down, and I would argue that this deck is suboptimal compared to the green version. So that's not even, in my opinion, the most competitive choice. Then you got, we got 1, 2, 3 target down, and then we got, I think we got 2 Jeddah cities. Yeah, 2 Jeddah cities. So it is, and almost only 25 HP base. This is not necessarily super representative. Some 30 HP base do see play a little bit more often than what is represented here. But you can see here the absolute dominance of energy conversion lab in terms of how much play he sees compared to the other base in the game. So I think this is kind of a self-explanatory on, and that's the reason why I'm rating this way. Anyway, I hope this was informative for you guys, and next time it will be our very last tier list video, at least for Spark of Rebellion, and this is going to be about the leaders. And thank you for following me throughout this journey, and see you next time.